Well, hello folks, LA Little here with TA Today. And what we're going to talk about today is the most common day trading mistake that I see, and one that probably affects many of you. And it's not, where you put your stops. If your stop's too close, it's not having a trading plan. It's not even impatience, right? In the trade setup most of the time. What I typically see in traders that I'm mentoring is that they don't know where to take their profits. They don't know how to project. They don't know how to know when to take a profit. And it's important that you take profits. And I want to go through an example. I traded Nvidia on Friday, and I want to go through that example. Now, Nvidia, as you probably know, Thursday evening they came out. And if we look at Thursday evening's trade, it looked like this. They came out Thursday evening and they said, we're going to buy the intellectual property, which allows us to put Tensor-like capabilities into our chips. And you would expect, given that dropped this market before, you would expect that would pop this market back up. And so the question is like, if you're going to trade that and take a position in that, and you're day trading that, where are you going to take profits? Well, you're not going to look at a day chart and figure that out, but what you can figure out on a day chart, because the day chart is really your long-term time frame. 30 minutes your intermediate, 10 minutes is your short-term time frame, and every now and then you can drop to 2 minutes if you're trying to find a reversal. But when you look at this thing, right, where is it? Well, you can go and pop up and see what your ATR is for the 1 day. Your short-term time frame. What is it on a daily basis? 4.34. Well, if we go and we look at where it was trading, what the close was 188.61. So if you take that $4.34 and you add it to that, you're going to end up with looks like about 193. So 193 is about as much as you can expect to get out of this. And if we draw that in, looking at a daily chart, say 193 is about right there. That's really nothing on the daily chart that tells you that, right? You have to pop down to the lower time frames to see that. And so let's do that together. This is the chart of Nvidia as it looked coming into the day on Thursday. And what happened Thursday? Pre-market, you can get a feel for what's going to happen. Pre-market was going to open up somewhere up here. It was going to gap up. This was your swing point high, right? Because you got 6 bars on a 30-minute time frame. And so a retest region of this would be bullish. You would expect it to reverse and go back higher. That's if it comes back, right? Because you had all this bullish news coming in. And so how do you know that $4, that $4.34, how do you know where you should take that, or if you should take it at that price point? Well, we can do a projection because we don't really have left-hand side resistance over here to work with. We can do a projection in ABCD. So you got an A to here, and then the B ends up being there, and project up, it's to this price point. And if we draw that across, we can see that price point comes in around 192, about just shy of 193. So 193 is about what we were talking about, right? And so when we look at this and we go forward to see what it actually did, here's your first bar. And as you can see, a lot of volume came in, this thing popped up, and it was just shy of that price point. Should you take gains here? I would say yes. I would say yes for 2 reasons. Number one, that's the projection almost, right? So you're almost to the projection point. Now, maybe it will get there later, but at this point, it almost got there. And number 2 is if you bought this on the open, somewhere in here, that push up is going to put money in your pocket. And so you get a push up, and you got the first bar, first 30 minutes, you got a nice big move to the top side. Now, we can break that down and say, how would we know that was the trade at the time? We can look at the 10-minute chart. And so here's the 10-minute chart, what it looked like on Thursday afternoon, the close. There's that same swing point high. Again, this is going to be a retest regen if it comes back. And if we move this forward and see if there's anything here that tells us something, there's the first 10 minutes. So you can see the high price point 192.03, and then the very next bar gets a little bit higher and closes under it, lower volume. That's a warning sign of a potential reversal, right? And where did it trade to? Price point 192.29. So again, we're getting close to that price point that we expected, right? And then here we see the reversal back down. So this was your warning, right? And when I get a warning like that, I'm looking at the top of this bar is where I want to try to sell as close as I can get to the top of that bar on the very next bar once this bar prints. So that is the reversal using candles, not neoclassical, just candles, knowing that we had an ABCD structure that took us up just a little bit higher up here, but we're not going to get to it right off the bat. You want to put that money in your pocket, either all of it or a good portion of it, and then wait for some sort of a next trade when it comes back down. And as you can see here, if you look at the volumes of this, you got 4.27, you got 4.24. So you got just slightly less volume on a hammer reversal, pickaxe type reversal. That's a potential buy. Where would I want to buy? I'd actually want to buy as close as I can get to the bottom of this bar. But I didn't get an entry, and I didn't get another trade. So I continued to wait. And as it continued to develop, it went back up there, tested again, couldn't quite get to the top, comes back down, and do we get a reversal? Never get the setup I like, and so that was it on this particular thing. But if you do look at this, where did it finally trade to? 192.69, almost to target, and that was the trade. And then to the very end of the day, you got a spike back down. So the lesson here is pretty simple. Know where you're going to try and get your price point. When you see a reversal set up using your short-term time frame, know that you're going to need to take your money if you made your gains. And then put that money in your pocket and then continue to watch and wait for another setup. You may get it, you may not. In my particular case, I didn't see the setup that I wanted. I didn't take a position. You can actually draw in some other setups, like here's an ABCD structure that I could draw in and say, okay, that would have been a projection down here that I could have bought, but we didn't get there. So we just never quite got the setup that I wanted. I traded other vehicles independent of this one because I never got what I wanted again. But the main thing, the main point, know your trend. Your trend on all these time frames, if we go back and look at them. The trend here, what is it? This is your 30-minute time frame. Trend is higher, right? It was higher on your daily. Remember, I had a bullish retest regen. Regenerating higher. If we look at the daily one more time. Now blow it up so you can see it. This is your bullish retest regen. Here's the retest. It's regenerating on Thursday. There's your spike up. You end up with a doji basically. And this is, to me, this is kind of no man's land again. You just have to wait and see what happens. And this is not one I trade. I turned my attention to it because of the news, knowing that it would probably try and pop up that morning. And that's exactly what it did. So the point, the most common day trading mistake I see is where you don't have a good idea of where you're going to take your profits and you get too greedy. You want to take your profits as soon as you get those profits, at least book half of what you got and then look for the rest of it. But if you see a reversal like I showed you and you're close to your projection, you want to go ahead and take your profits. Hope that helps. If you like these videos, leave me a comment. If there's something else you'd like to see, especially on the day trading, because it looks like these day trade videos get a lot of views. I continue to invite you to tell me what it is that is difficult for you or what you'd like to see more of. Be sure to subscribe, hit the alert button, and I'll see you next time. Take care.